Welcome to the Open Books Podcast, where we teach you about everything that's going on in the real estate industry, guiding you to the top 10%. I'm your co-host, Brooke Massey, alongside Casey Tudor today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How's it going?
Well, it's raining today.
Yep. Hey, Curtis. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, we kicked Curtis off the podcast.
Yeah.
I took his chair and everything and his intro.
Yeah, you did.
I know, and I didn't even have to read it. I just made it up.
Yeah, that's right.
I had it in my head.
First try, too.
I had it in my head, and I repeated it like 3 times exactly what Curtis says. But then as soon as I started talking about it, I was like, nope, this is where we're going with it.
Nice. Yeah. Hey, that's improv. Improvisation.
Well, that's what you have to be a successful real estate agent.
You do.
Sometimes you just got to be resourceful. And it's like, you know what? I'm not doing the X, Y, and Z way. We're doing MN, and then we're ending in Z.
We're doing LMNOP.
No, that's still in order.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, or I don't know, I'll just show up.
Yeah. I
It's the
understand.
only thing you can do.
That's right. Hey, that's half the battle, showing up. People just realize that. Just put your pants on and go to work and, do something.
I should start keeping track of like how much every time I make money just because I showed up, not because of anything else. Not that it happens a lot, but I think it does happen probably more often than not.
Yeah, it absolutely does happen. So it's it's raining, as everyone can probably hear, and we have a really old building. I think this building was probably built in the early 1900s. I don't know. I mean, it's old.
Film Row of
It's old.
downtown OKC.
So Film Row is basically where they have like little theaters down here. It's like right outside of downtown Oklahoma City, and the back of our building there were train tracks that went all the way down, and all the back rooms were used to store film, and they're all fireproof, and that's why they've all got like the steel doors on them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
Interesting.
Yeah, see? You learned something new.
If there's a fire, I'm going to go to the back room.
Yeah, it's fireproof. Well, we don't have fireproof doors on that side anymore.
Well,
but the kitchen kind of screwed that up too.
Just stay away from the door.
Yeah, but anyway, it's cool. It's a cool building, but it's very loud when it rains and when the wind blows and when cars honk, and you just do the best you can with the space you got. So, what are we talking about today, Brooke?
Diversifying our business in real estate besides just buyers and sellers, because there's more ways to make money as a real estate agent in general and just in real estate overall. And I think that's why I know I got into real estate. Besides, my good friend was like, you'd be really good at this, and I laughed at his face. But more so, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I started encompassing I need to build wealth, and the way to do that is through real estate. But I had no idea how. I just knew that was the goal,
Yeah. But my opinion on real estate in general, or real estate investing, is I mean, this is only one way, and it's just an idea, it's a thought, but again, you don't have to go down this road immediately. But I think if you want to get into real estate of any facet, learn how to work with buyers and sellers.
Yes.
Because that's where a lot of your deals are going to come from. And if you want to start wholesaling or getting into investing or flipping, you know how to deal with people at that point. You know what the transaction is supposed to do, and you just have a better grip on the goings on of real estate.
No, because it is, at the end of the day, it is sales, and I think you need to understand that aspect in a very in-depth way.
Right.
And that's something I have a seller right now, and he made all of his money in real estate, very, very well. Very wealthy, and he used to be a broker. And so some of the things, like just doing our systems and processes, granted, I'm a little bit more anal. I'm very on top of paperwork. That's my job, is to be really good at my paperwork, have everything, and ultimately give the client security. And so some of the things that he didn't really like, I was just like, interesting. Granted, he was able to build his wealth in real estate. He's a multimillionaire now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a certain aspect that I always wonder, could you have done more, or could you have prevented a lot of headaches that maybe you've had going into investing in real estate? Even when people go and flip houses.
Yeah.
I go and meet first time flippers all the dang time because they always go for sale by owner.
Yeah.
It seems like, and I walk in and then they have the idea of flipping, but then they don't have the idea of sales behind it. And you need to understand that. Yes, numbers are numbers, but you also need to understand how the market works, how the numbers work, because then otherwise you could lose $5,000 and nobody's going to ever know about it. But just having that knowledge. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, 100%. It's like one of those like untraceable like P&L items that you can't track.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've noticed most flippers that I know or newer flippers, what they've done is they go buy property, they get it under contract, and they may have got a deal or they may have thought they've got a deal. And then, of course, they don't need a realtor because that's going to eat their profit.
Yep.
And so they try to do everything on their own. And they say, well, I just called the listing agent. It's like, okay, well, then the listing agent represented you. You just don't know how it worked. Yep. And then you went and spent $100,000. What you did is you bought a house for $100,000. You put $100,000 into it, and you go, well, it only makes sense if I make $100,000 off this house. So I'm going to list at $300,000. Whenever houses in that neighborhood only sell for a max of $225,000 or $250,000 max.
Yes.
And now you're $50,000 to $75,000 overpriced from the gate. So now you definitely can't afford to pay a realtor.
Because I guess now they're only looking at the numbers and they forgot one big important number.
You have to back into it. The best thing you have to do is, and that's a good thing about being in real estate first. And I don't mean just having your license, I mean actually selling, is you know how the markets work and you know different neighborhoods and what they can get away with. You know, there's a neighborhood here, Town Square in Bungalow Heights, which is a builder named Caleb. And even though all these other builders are offering $50,000 in buyer incentives, or they're giving a 4.99% interest rate, McCaleb's like, I don't care what lender you use. Just get it done. We're not giving you anything.
Yeah.
What you're getting is a desirable neighborhood and a very well-built home. And then what people don't understand is that neighborhood will always resell well.
Yes.
So, yeah, you're paying $275 a square foot or whatever they're at these days, but you can sell it. And so, but anyways, flippers, they don't take any of that into account being new. But that's not really what we're getting into. The whole point is, like, it's good to be in real estate. Now, if you've got millions of dollars and you just want to say, like, hey, I want to dump this and buy apartment complexes, like, go for it. You know, that, again, this is no one way. I'm just saying, if you're like wanting to get into real estate or get into real estate investing, and you have no money and you have no experience, that's a great way to start.
Yeah.
And I think you'd be leaving a lot of money on the table if you did just leave it to buyers and sellers.
Yes.
Like, if you spent 20, 30 years only representing buyers and sellers and never took advantage, because, you know, the tax code is really written to help you build wealth.
Yes.
You just really have to know how to do it. And
how to navigate it.
Right. So so we talk about the different ways. So you've already worked with buyers and sellers and you understand the transaction and you want to like kind of get out there and move on. So
start diversifying yourself.
And then really, you know, what you'll find is you'll end up finding a niche.
Yes.
Something that you really enjoy, something you're good at, something that makes a lot more sense to you.
That's what I've always seen. Like, just like with buying and selling specifically, like people, like some people will go focus on FSBOs and expireds. Other people will focus on open houses. Other people focus solely on social media. And that's how they get their business. Mm-hmm. Same thing in investing. Just like you said, I think some people just go in and they may go and do wholesaling. And that is their number one way of investing and building wealth.
Yeah.
Or they go in and do the buy and hold method.
Right.
There's that method. Or they only flip homes. Like there's I mean, that's just like a very small portion of investments that are out there. But for the most part, definitely I've seen people have like all different kinds. And I'll tell you, there is so much and so many different kinds. Like, I'm working with an investor right now, and if he would kind of be glorified as a slumlord to a certain extent because of how, but if you meet him, he's actually a really nice guy and he cares about people. He just found a way to build wealth in real estate, and he understands that there's like a certain criteria of home, and he goes in and he's very intelligent with all the major systems and knows if he can keep it or not, and he knows that people will go in there and pay it. So not always the best, right? I wouldn't do it that way. I'm like, no, I want to make it pretty for you. I'm gonna have a lawn service guy, but that's just me because I just take pride in stuff like that. Not that he doesn't, but there's just so many different ways and so many different niches, especially investing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go ahead and get this one out of the way. Wholesaling.
It is not. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's just there's a lot of bad perception.
Yeah, and I want to address that, especially if we're talking to people who think they want to get into it or will get into it. You know, at the end of the day, like I have morals, and they're not the same as everyone's. Probably looser than some. But with that being said, like I want to be able to go to sleep at night because I know I did the right thing.
Yes.
And now, yes, there is a need for wholesaling. But what I've noticed a lot, and I've seen it firsthand, is what these wholesalers are doing is they're going to these properties, and you know, I think a lot of the conversations are probably like, hey, I can offer this, and the seller's like, yeah, you can just take a hike. But I think there are certain situations where they take advantage of the homeowner, making them think that there's no way anyone's ever going to buy that property.
And there's no other option. Then they get them to sign a piece of paper saying, I, as the agent, as the wholesaler, have a right to list and market your property as basically as I see fit. So they'll contract. And then they also the homeowners don't know that they're actually looking for a buyer. Most of the time, they think that wholesaler was the buyer. Yes.
And the way their contracts are written, they can pretty much get out of it. And what are you going to do? You're in that position anyways, that you need to sell, and your house is hoarded or whatever the situation they're taking advantage of.
Absolutely.
And again, I've been in situations to where they should wholesale it. Like that seller should get rid of it because they need the money.
Yes.
They can't show the house for whatever reason.
It's trashed,
or there's someone in bed dying.
Yeah.
You can't list a home like that. And so there are reasons for it, but what they have to know, and this is the part that helps me sleep at night, if I were offering that to someone, I would say, hey, I can offer you this. And I've done this before where I told the lady who was in her last stages of life, she's like, I thought I could get more than that. I go, well, here, look, this is what, nice, Brad.
Our audience here is fired.
So, I forgot what I was saying now. Oh, so she's not doing well, and she's on her way out. And I told her, you're only going to probably get $60,000 out of this house. And she's like, oh my God, that's terrible. And I told her, I'm like, look, I know that you raised a family here, that you have a lot of memories were built in this home, and it's special to you. Like, I don't want to disregard that because this was your home. But since 1960, since this house was built, not one thing has been done. Mm-hmm. There's cracks in the wall. The HVAC was 20 years old. The kitchen appliances were original. The curly Q stove. Yeah. Like, it was all that kind of everything in that house needed to be redone. Bathtub. Yes, it was like all that. So, I told her, this is all you're going to get. And I said, here's what I'm guesstimating. And I told her I'm going to put X amount into it. I'm going to give you X amount, put X amount into it, and then I'm going to put it on the market, and then I'm going to have these fees and these holding costs I'm projecting for 3 months, which is going to get me, closer to 100. And then so I got to list at 130, which I think I can get. But if I make one mistake or one thing goes wrong, then that profit's gone.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Now, here's where you have to be aggressive in the wholesaling is I should have got her to sign that day because she had met with someone else that offered, basically they were like, what'd that guy offer you? And she's like 60, and they're like, we'll do 65 right now. And she's like, okay. Because I was trying to be nice and say, why don't you sleep on it? Because I don't want you to make any rash decisions. I did not know she had someone else coming, so lesson learned.
Yeah.
But I think as long as they know, okay, if I were to fix up my property,
yes,
I could get X.
They need the options.
If I were to list it as is, I could get X, but this is what it's going to take. You're going to have to vacate the home, and you're going to have to let people come through your house.
Yep.
And and also, if your house is trash and needs a bunch of work, you're eliminating like 75 to 80% of your buyers because most are going to be FHA or VA.
Yes.
And this house just it's going to be
Cash, maybe
it's going to be hard. Yeah. So we're already limited to our buyer pool as it is. So we can leave wholesaling at that if unless you want something to add. But I do think there's a need for it, and I think that you can win in wholesaling if you just keep it on the up and up and let all parties understand what is happening.
Yeah, like just be at the end of the day, like we get into this like the sales aspect. We're here to help people, and I'm going to, regardless of sales, investing, whatever, I'm going to make good relationships because I know my relationships are probably going to help me in my investment later on down the road. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know where their path is going to take them either. So just lead with honesty and integrity, and just take care of people. So it's the wholesaling, like it's the bad perception. And I actually had a listing just recently, and he was telling me, and they were listed with a wholesaling team here in Oklahoma City, and he was explaining to me the whole process. And they did his mom's house, and I was like I won't get into it, but basically the whole story, by the end of it, my mouth was on the ground, and I was just like, holy cow, your mom just lost like $50K. Just like that, because a wholesaler saw it and they just wanted to wholesale it. And I'm like, that right there is just, I'm going to say it's shitty. Yeah. Because it was an old lady that was her only home, and she retired. And you're going to take $50,000. That's a lot of freaking money from somebody that's going to retire. Yeah, versus like explaining to her if she stays on the market, because most wholesalers are real estate agents, licensed real estate agents. So just take care of people. Give the option. You have options to either wholesale it and get a small portion, or list it, take a little bit longer, and you get paid more too, and you give your client more money. Yeah, so.
I agree. And that's what I mean by like the morals part of this, because, by all means, like, you do what you want with your money.
Yes.
It's your money. You spend it how you want. If you want to drive a Lamborghini, go for it. Good for you that you earn the money. However, if you're stealing the money, taking advantage of people, and then you're going out, it's like, again, that's on you, man. Like, go do you. But like, I could not take $50,000 from an old lady and then go buy a Lamborghini and drive around in it. Which I know Lamborghinis cost more than $50,000.
Yeah, I was like,
Honda Accord costs $50,000 these days.
I know.
But anyway, so that's wholesaling. Do your research on it, and be careful who mentors you in that field, because and also, like, don't end up in jail. Well, or get sued.
It's
like, be
one
careful
of the
with that.
hardest type of clients too that you have to deal with, I think, because it's hard situations. The houses aren't in best shape, not all the time, but most of the time, and so not a lot of people want to do that. Like, I also like to go to my $600,000+ listings with people that know what they're doing and have everything, and they understand the process, and that's it too.
Right.
I don't want to just grind on that, because it is a burnout industry, but I'm gonna go and take part of all opportunities. But just saying.
Yeah. And again, I think at the end of the day, there's reasons for wholesaling. There are houses all over downtown that haven't been touched in decades. Those people need to give those houses up. Let someone give you 30 or 50 grand for them and move on down the road, because we need housing, and we need people to flip those and renovate. So the second thing I want to talk about is, have you heard of the Burr method?
I have. It's
so
cold.
It's what?
It's cold.
Ooh. Yeah.
Must be some clovers in the atmosphere. That's all I think about every time.
Oh my God. Burr. Yeah.
Cheerleader.
Claire used to sing that too. But she didn't cheerlead. But so it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So you buy a home, maybe you wholesaled it, whatever. You got a house, you got a decent deal on it, and then you renovate it with your own money, and then you rent it out. And once you have it rented, then you refinance that property. So now it's worth more, right? Because you renovated it. So now you get to pull out all that equity, and then you get to do it again.
I love it.
And so that way you're not bringing fresh capital every single time. It's like, well, let me save 20% and then I'll get a new one. Let me save, and the Dave Ramsey, Dave Ramsey is not my cup of tea. I like certain philosophies that he has. And he did learn, and this could happen to anyone that disagrees with him.
Yeah.
Because what happened to him was he had all these houses and the banks called the notes on him.
Yes.
And he went bankrupt. Well,
yeah.
So that is possible. But I think to actually save $100,000 to buy a rental, like you're going to, by the time you save $100,000, that rental's going to be $200,000.
You're going to have 2 rentals by the time you're 65.
Yeah.
And that's not enough to pay you.
Right. So that's going to be an issue. So I think there are other ways, and the BRRRR method is a great way to do that.
It's like you need money up front, but then it's kind of like help get you going, essentially, because once you like get a good amount, like a smaller chunk, maybe not 100,000, to basically go into the property, but then you can take it and then it keeps growing and growing and you buy more and more properties after that.
Yep. And why this is better, I can't say better, but like just putting your money into an investment accounts. My mom the other day was like, I lost, I don't remember what it was, like $75,000 this last, couple weeks. I'm like, damn.
Oh, like stock market?
Yeah, because it went down. And
I just don't look at it then.
And
then I never lost the money.
But you will when you're in your 70s.
That's true.
You're going to be eyeing it because
I don't have nothing else to do.
Because you're retired. Well, you're retired and you're going to be making withdrawals to use it.
Oh yeah, good point.
And so, or you're going to pull it out so you don't lose all of it and have to go back to work.
Yes.
I
didn't realize
you didn't know
that
how
was
bad it could go.
I didn't realize that was a thing until I was working my corporate job, and there was a guy, and he was about to retire, and it was like in the middle of COVID, and then I forget when, but then the stock market just crashed. Essentially,
I put money in it. Then
he ended up he couldn't retire anymore, and I was like, I was mind blown when I learned that. I was like, what? I've learned a lot in 5 years, but
yeah, you do, especially if you're selling. So and I'm not saying that you shouldn't put your money into those things. I'm not a seasoned investor, so I can't really give advice on anything.
Well, they say diversify your money.
Diversify it.
All millionaires, they say you should have at least 7 streams of income.
So
and that could be from like a bunch of different ways.
Yeah. So I read a statistic the other day, and I can't remember it exactly, but it was very high. I can't remember the company name, but it's like Vanguard and BlackRock, and there's one other one. It's basically like their goal is to own by the end of the year, own 60% of homes in America.
Oh, yeah.
And so basically every LLC that you see come across buying a property that gives way above and beyond are owned by that company. And
I got some listings.
They own like 80%. Well, yeah,
I'm like,
come on. No, they own like
just buy one.
They own like 80% of the S&P, which means they control most of that. So
that they can.
So my
market.
point here is, if you could buy 5 homes that are all worth $200,000,
yeah,
then you have $1 million in equity when it's paid off. And if you can do, most investors are going to do 12-year, 15-year notes. So literally, if you started buying them now, if you bought one a year, in 12 to 15 years after you bought them, they're paid off.
Yeah.
And not only that, essentially you didn't pay a dime for them because you're renting them. So your renters paying your mortgage, paying the interest, and now you've got a paid off property that someone else paid for. Yeah, you have to maintain it.
Yeah, you may have to buy an HVAC or a roof.
But you bought it for $100,000, but in 15 years now it's worth $200,000.
Exactly.
So now you got the appreciation from the property, and you have the equity from what that person paid in. And so I just think that's really just the best way to go. And it's easy to add up. So if you want $2 million in wealth, then you've got to go buy 10 properties at $200,000. And you can just grow it that way. And it's pretty easy to figure out. And so I think for me, that's the direction I'm headed.
Yeah.
Because I can control it more. And I know and by the way, the market is not crashing. You're going to see stuff like this all the time. The difference now, the reason people aren't moving is because they have 3% interest rates. They're not losing those homes.
I was like, what? I'm like, what is it? I kind of want to Google, like, what would it even look like if the real estate market actually crashed?
I just don't see what it could look like, because
like how is that possible?
Because no notes are being called
Not
due.
trying to be like naive or anything. I'm sure there's a thing, but I'm like curious.
It would be the same as 2008. We could then go buy a bunch of foreclosures. And so
then we're just going to get rich.
Yeah, but we're not on that, because there's not homes being foreclosed on like they were in 2008. So, and the main reason is, in 2008, all those loans that were sold, you didn't even have to provide proof of income. You could tell tell your trusted lender with Home Connect's lending, Jacob Crouch. You could tell him like, "Hey man, I make $700,000 a year," and he's like, "Cool, here's a $2 million loan for you.
Is it that easy?
Go buy." It was that easy.
Jacob, we're gonna have to talk after this podcast.
It was that easy. Now it's like you almost have to give up one of your children to get a loan because of all that happened. So and the market's not crashing. In fact, it's sitting in a really good spot, because as of right now, like, I know people don't like 7% interest rates. It's getting harder to buy a home. I understand that. But if you lower the interest rates right now
that would be
to
terrifying.
3 or 4, what do you think is going to happen to the home prices? They're going to go up again.
They said that if they were to do that, and this is how I started explaining it to like clients. I'm like, listen, if they have to be so careful. They have to tread lightly with just dropping prices, because this is what will happen if they go too low and because there's so much pent up demand of people. If they go just a tenth of a point too low and it floods people in, then affordable housing may not be a possibility anymore.
Yeah,
and your children may not. It'd be a lot harder for them to save up and be able to purchase.
It's looking that way. However, people have to learn to, they've got to learn to compromise, because when my parents bought a house in early 80s, they paid, 15% interest or whatever it was. It's very high. Well, do you want to know how big their house was? 800 square feet.
Oh.
Because that's what they could afford.
Yeah.
So that's what people need to do. They need to get over themselves. I want a bonus room. Who cares? Like, you guys, you need to buy a house now, because
family traditions.
The only thing that's going to happen is prices are going to go up, and it's going to be harder later.
Yes.
Like, it's not going to get any easier. And so, and here's the biggest problem that's happened. And we kind of got off topic, but to me, like, the market is everything. And so,
and it's a market after all. People forget that too.
And what happened was, I can't remember the amount, but the government spent $15 trillion on COVID.
That's crazy.
In like a year. And so that's why everything is so expensive.
Yeah.
Because when you print money on demand, the value of that dollar goes down. It's a scam. It's all a scam.
Oh yeah.
And they do what they want, and now it's caused problems. So it's not just interest rates. Like 7% is not that much. But if you add that on top of $10 eggs, $50,000 car, used car.
Well, now it's like
that. All those things adding up really hurts people. And our expectations and lifestyles in America now are so much higher than they used to be. So
there was I was talking to my wife's Mimi, and we were having a family get together for my wife's birthday, and Brittany and I were just talking about like, we need a bigger home, and we have a nice 1,500 square foot home, like 3-bed, like it's just 2 of us. And Mimi said something, and I was like, it like stuck with me to the point that you made of like living in an 800 square foot home. She's like, and she still lives in this exact same home, and she's like, I raised 4 kids.
Yeah, my dad still lives in his house.
Husband and everything in this house.
Right.
And their house is like probably 1,200 square feet. And I was just like, wow, thanks for humbling me for a second, because it just happens.
People need some of that. And also they're not thinking about it correctly. And I'm just as guilty, because I didn't know, like, in the beginning, but it's like, buy the house and like plan to keep it.
Yeah.
Or use it for your next one. I mean, that's what, like, we didn't time the market, but we had bought it 10 years previous, and we probably had 75, 80 grand in equity sitting there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the market took off and interest rates went down to 3%. It's like, well, I guess it's time to move.
I got
But if we would have
so
never
tired
done
of
that,
moving, like renting and
yeah,
stuff.
if we had never done that, then we wouldn't be in the house we're in now.
Yes.
And so now looking back, I shouldn't have sold that house. I should have I should have ponied up and used my money in savings.
Yes.
Because at this point, that house is worth, $250,000. I paid $100 for it.
And that's where we're at, because
so-
and we had a little house fire, and we got a ton of upgrades and stuff. But we have over $100,000 of equity just chilling in our house. Not just because of the house fire. Also, I bought it in 2015 for $130. So it's now like $215 worth.
Man, that
so
would hurt so bad to pay $130. I paid $100 for my first one. I was like, "Ooh, babe," I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, we are
130 was
close.
It was a lot back then.
I remember
And
like
there's multiple offers too in 2015. I know nothing about real estate then.
Yeah, I remember in those days when I first started in real estate, it was. I had a friend call me and say our budget's $275. I'm like, are you freaking crazy?
That's like a $500,000, $600,000 house now.
Yeah, I'm like, how? What do you do for a living?
Right.
But now it's like, you want to buy a new home, $275. Oh man, you're gonna 800 square foot.
Yes.
Looks like it.
But I'm gonna probably just back to this point, just keep our home, because we were looking at other homes, and I did reach out to Jacob Crouch with Home Connects, and I was like, hey, I don't have like a ton of money, but I have all this freaking equity, and there's ways if I wanted to go buy another house, and so it was really good. So like people too, like just thinking about investing, like it's most of the time like. For me, like I haven't started investing in real estate yet,
right.
But I chose other different types of investing, which is recruiting, which we'll talk about that
We'll talk
later.
about that real quick.
But I forgot where I was going. But eventually I'll go into investing. So I just like to understand and know and just prepare myself so when I can just pull the trigger.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So let's touch on recruiting real quick, because it's kind of like almost a new norm. Like, I feel like teams, like Zillow teams, are probably going to be like the new way. Like if you've noticed, like there are mega teams that dominate.
Oh yes.
And I actually don't mind it, because when I have a listing and I see one of those companies cross, I'm like, okay, like this buyer's agent is on it, because if they don't, they get fired.
Yes.
So it's like
real quick.
They're gonna work with that buyer to get this thing closed.
Yeah.
And so regardless of their experience or not, but. It's just kind of like a little squirrel thought of that. But, building yourself a team in any regard, whether it's profit sharing, building yourself a team that you collect overrides, or if you want to be a lead provider where you feed all of your agents their deals and then take a certain percentage. None of this is right or wrong, and there's money to be made in all of it. I think you just have to know what you're getting yourself into, because the model that we do is more teach someone to fish, so that, and you get a little less from them, but once they're up and running, then you just kind of have money coming in. And then you have this bond and this relationship, and it's more long term.
And you can actually build something that you can sell.
Yeah, and then they're going to get more commission
as
well.
A brokerage or a team, you can't sell your production per se.
Well, and then if you're on a team, you don't get to build your own name, but you get free deals every day. You get leads sent to you all the time, but the downside is if you're on let's just call it a 70-30 split with that team. Well, if they give you a lead, they're taking 50% of that, so you're left with 20 to 30% of a sale. Like, I don't know about you, but I work really hard for my clients.
Yeah. And
I would not feel very motivated to only make 30%.
Yes.
At the end of the day. But
not
again,
doing what we do.
It's not right or wrong. It's not right or wrong. It's just what works for you and your team. But yeah, so recruiting in general is kind of like creating assets on the back end. It's
just instead of like a house, it's people.
Yeah.
I'm investing in people.
You're investing more of your time into them and setting them up for success to help you become more. And I always use like Jeff Bezos as an example, because if he was still working out of his garage, he wouldn't be Amazon as they are today, because he'd have to do it all himself.
Right.
And so until you have a team and provide those opportunities for other people, you can't really grow, which is why I like team models, because I like growth.
Yep.
And so, other ways to invest in real estate, which everyone knows, is flipping.
Yep.
So,
but these are, I feel like you got to connect with the wholesalers. That's where most people are going now. Because, if for a flip to be well, most of the time it has to be off market. Not all the time, but you're not going to find it on the MLS. If it's on the MLS, it's going multiple offers.
Yeah.
And it's gone in 5 seconds. But finding it off market, and then so you can get that big profit, because depending on the house and what all work it needs to be done.
Yeah, and so the trick here is really knowing your numbers.
Yeah, and
knowing what your holding costs are going to be, knowing what your lender expects from you as far as payback goes, times and conditions, and also I think probably the biggest challenge is having a crew that's going to show up.
Probably, right?
Because man, these crews are so, like, it's so hard to get a good one. But once you do get a good one, if you can keep them fed, like, you're gonna be able to create some really pretty properties. But I think what people don't understand is, like, if you watch HGTV, it's all bull. Like, I don't know how they do it, but again, everyone makes fun of this. It's like, you have a teacher, and then the husband's a teacher, and then the wife is a butterfly specialist or something like that. And it's like, but they're buying $80 million. Yeah. And it's like, or they go flip it, and they put, they buy it for 200, put 150 into it, and then sell it for $1 million. And it's like,
this is not reality.
Where are those deals?
There was one flip show that I used to like to watch. It was a husband and wife. Now they're split up, and now he's married to another hot blonde, and now they're all friends. I think it's kind of weird.
Interesting.
But I saw them on social media. But anyways, they had when he was married to his first wife, they had a flip show, and I can't think of what it's called.
I know what you're talking about.
I can't think of their name. Everyone, if you saw a picture of him, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But I liked them because they were a little bit more realistic, because they were always talking about, like, timelines and different things like that. It's been a minute since I've watched it. Now I could probably hear them speak some lingo, and I'd be like, oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was a little bit more realistic.
Yeah.
So, because I know with flipping too, like, there's like, and don't quote me because I haven't flipped a house, but like holding costs and different, like, other types of costs and things on the back end that could hurt you that people don't realize. And that's where people really run into trouble with flipping.
Yeah. And that's why you go walk into these flips, and of course this is the public's fault. The reason flippers quote unquote hide things, and and some people don't understand why they do this, but it's really simple. It's like, why do they put all this money into making this property so pretty, but the HVAC is 30 years old or the roof is 20 years old? But it's like, well, because if they replace all those things but didn't put new flooring in, you'd walk in and walk out.
Yes.
You wouldn't even care about the HVAC. So they're sucking you in emotionally because you're being emotional, because it's an emotional buy.
Something I can always know when they're a first-time flipper when I walk into a house, because then they're like prideful, and they're like, we took this to the studs, we got all brand new windows and all that, and I was like, cool, how old's the HVAC? That's always my first question, and I instantly know, I'm like, oh man, you're in for some trouble. Your margins are tight.
Well, they're hoping that it just goes through okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And it can, but it is what it is. So we have flippings, and then we also have something else I'm interested in. And here in Oklahoma, this seems to be a really good opportunity that is overlooked, I think, but is Airbnbs.
Oh, yeah.
We have so many traveling nurses in films that are being made here now because we're in a certain radius of the new Netflix compound or whatever it is, and I think it's out west somewhere, like Arizona or something like that. But we're within a certain.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're within a certain radius that allows it to be filmed here, travel wise. That makes sense. That's why, like, the Tulsa King was filmed here.
And Twister.
Well, that didn't have anything to do with Netflix because it wasn't a Netflix show.
Yeah,
but you get my point. So, you've got. I sold the house for a lady that had a Airbnb. She rented it out for a year and a half to the Tulsa King film crew. Well, but that was just one house. Like that, I don't know how big those crews are, but I know they're not small.
Oh no, there's
this house only had
thousands of
4
people
bedrooms.
Make a movie,
So
I'm
it's-
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like
Or
no
hundreds
telling
at
how
least.
many people.
No,
So
the thing with Airbnbs is some people don't like it because there is a time, and so people say it's more like a job. So, but again, you need good crews and
That's
different
why you
things like
hire
that.
out.
Yep, and that's
again, you can't be Jeff Bezos by
No.
doing it all yourself. Like
Heck no.
I know an investor of mine, like, and he can be a little frustrating because he takes so much pride in his homes.
Yeah.
But it's like, and it's like he like really vets his tenants. It's like, dude, you can't scale this. Like he pops by and checks on the properties, and it's like, I mean, yeah, I bet you are a great landlord,
yeah,
but like you're not going to own more than 3 this way.
yep.
So, but yeah, so Airbnbs are huge, and the thing I like about them, and again, none of this comes without headaches. So it's not
Oh,
like
yeah,
I'm
none
just
of
saying
it.
this is the way. But Airbnbs are good because, for the most part, people are going to keep your properties nice,
Yes,
and so
that's
it's going to keep your equity where it is.
This is one part of investing that I've actually done a lot of research in and read a couple books and stuff, and they said exactly that your properties will be maintained for a lot longer because you have people going in and out, even if they stay for a week.
Flushing the toilets.
Right? They go for a week. Guess what? Then you get a cleaner in there and they clean the whole dang house.
Yep.
That a handyman shows up and fixes anything and whatever else. And it's all completely redone and perfect, like you're
Yeah.
relisting the house. And it does that every
And
time.
you want to keep your filters clean, things like that, because you don't want
Versus-
someone laying in bed and
Yeah.
being like, "Oh my god, that filter is so gross." Like you don't want
Yes.
that.
Versus like in a rent house, people are going to get in there. You could get a good renter
They'll
that
never
that
change the
rents
filters.
for 10 years, but yeah, they never change the filters, and now you got to spend 10 grand, 15, 20 grand for
Yeah,
a new
there's
HVAC.
maintenance no matter what.
Yes.
But so that's another way. Is there anything else?
I mean, there's tons of other ways. Like people talk about sub 2. Like I know a couple people
God.
that do that, but there's again there's some things to kind of navigate with that.
sub 2, yeah, we can touch on that and kind of end it. But it's like
Again, it's like wholesaling.
I don't have a huge understanding of it. I mean, I know what they're trying to accomplish by basically keeping the debt off of their name.
Yes.
But it's like, man, I can't tell my client to accept that because I don't understand it enough to really make sense of it for you.
There was only
And I don't know many realtors who can. And again, I got to be able to go to sleep at night. And so I know a
Yes.
lot of realtors say, "Oh yeah, let's do it. It's a good deal," and get you on. But I don't know. I had this one property that I listed, and I was having a hard time selling. So every day, I got the same text message
Sub two.
from tons of people. It's like, "I'm very interested in your property. Call me."
Yeah.
It's like, you never even seen the property. How are you very interested in it?
Yes.
And did you know that it's overpriced because they stopped paying on it as soon as they bought it? So now they have fees. Like, so you didn't even do any homework. So what happens was I'd call them and we'd have a 30-minute conversation about why they're not going to sub to this property. "Oh no, we can do it. I guarantee you. Send me the numbers." So I'm sending their premium or their insurance, their taxes, and their principals, what they owe on it.
Yes.
And every time I did this, I go, "Oh yeah, that's not going to work." I go, "Yeah, I told you."
It's like
And-
they do it until they get somebody that says yes.
and that's where it's kind of like a wholesaling game. But the last few conversations I had, basically these people took a short course or they watched some YouTube videos and then they start calling people to sub 2. I'm like, you don't even know what you're offering me.
No. Yes.
So how can I tell my clients to take this? Like,
There was
it
like-
makes no sense.
We did have one deal, and we did get a really good sub 2 guy. And now we do have an investor that does do subs 2, and he's like actually a really good human being, and he kind of explains some things. But even he doesn't do it all the time. But we had one client, and again, it's just like wholesaling. If it works for your client, then great. But there's some caveats. The biggest thing is the mortgage company. The mortgage company doesn't. Most of them, I don't know if any that do, they want the person that applied for the loan and got approved for the loan, and that's who they want to be paying for it, not some Joe Blow that's over here on the side. So that's the first thing, making sure the mortgage company is okay with that. But we had a guy, and he just went through a nasty divorce. his like net was so tight, it was ridiculous. And we were just trying to help this guy out, honestly. And so we got this sub 2 guy, and he was super knowledgeable, and so he actually helped us out a lot and was like explaining everything.
Yeah.
And kind of like what they want and what's their best case scenario, because really they want, if I'm gonna sub to your house, Casey, then, and you have a 30-year mortgage, well then I want it, but I want it to stay on your name and your credit for those 30 years still. And well, that hinders you as a client, because then you can't go and get another loan because you have this debt currently on you that somebody else is paying for and whatever else. And so we almost did it, but the sub 2 people, they said that they need at least 10 years. At least. And this guy was like, and we explained it to this guy, like, hey, like, we can try to negotiate it for you, make it 7 years, but just know that's 7 years that you can't go buy a house, essentially.
Or you have to make more money, or you have to do something else.
Happens or whatever. And he ended up not doing it, obviously.
Yeah.
But again, it's like a very specific, if somebody needs this, then that's the only time it'll work. And if the mortgage company is okay with it, which most of the time is not.
I don't see why they would. Yeah,
No.
I wouldn't do it. And so, I mean, yeah, you could get a quick sale, which is good. You could get relief from that financial monthly burden, which is good. It could keep your credit where it is instead of destroying it if you're not making payments.
Yep.
You can sell it as is, and again, you might be able to get a little bit higher of a sales price because they're essentially assuming your interest rate.
Yeah.
You know, if it was a good interest rate, that's the ones they really want, because they're not. And I would say a lot of these sub 2 companies are probably owned by the BlackRock and Vanguard group.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, but all those benefits, which is what they sell you on, comes with a lot of risk. Now, if you're going to go into foreclosure anyway, do you try it? I don't know. I'd probably just rather go ahead and, you know, give the property back to the bank than kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
Because if they stop paying on it, or they're renting, I mean, then what? Like, you're just kind of in the, I don't know.
I think it just depends. Like, I have an investor that sub 2s, and like, he only sub 2s. Like, he really is an investor that only like helps people in bad situations.
Yeah.
And so he does multiple things, and he does do it in multiple states. And so, and it's very rarely that
the buyer would have to know more about what they're doing than the seller. And I would probably lean to say that most people that are trying to sub 2 don't know what they're just like realtors.
Oh, yeah.
Only 20% of us even sell stuff.
Yes.
You know, so you got the other 80% out there.
If you're going to sub 2 anything and you're like an actual client, then you need to do a lot of research, call your mortgage company, call a realtor that understands sub 2 and what they look like. So
I agree.
But investing.
Yeah. Investing. So I like it. I like investing.
You like it?
Well, it's really the only way to, you know, you got to think of investing it as like, you're not spending money, you're storing it, you're stowing it away.
Yes.
For later time, and you're letting it grow and work for you instead of you working for the money all the time. It doesn't mean you're not going to work. In fact, you know, most flippers and house investors, they don't even spend money they make like on that.
Yeah.
They'll have a full-time job, or they have to do so many that they can pay themselves something. But most people are just stocking it away for 20, 30 years from now.
Yep.
And so that's, I mean, give your kid a college education that they may or may not use, and that at this point they're going to owe $150,000 if they go to Oklahoma University, or you buy them $150,000 house that will be worth $300,000
and let it pay
in the future
their college debt off.
Well, that, or let them figure out their own path.
Yeah.
But yet they already have wealth, instead of owing $150,000 to a financial institution, then to try to go out and buy a home with your new job you got from your college career that doesn't pay you anything.
And now you have all these student debt.
Now you have student debt and a mortgage. I'm just going to buy my kids a house.
Yeah.
You know, and just call it a day and let them figure it out. And if they want to go to med school, you got a free house to live in, figure it out.
I mean, that's honestly what I had to do.
Me too.
I figured it out, and I went to college and got a medical degree, and I still don't do anything with it. But I can tape your ankle really damn good if you need me to.
Claire could probably use a good wrapping right now.
I mean,
she twisted that thing up.
Did she? Mm-hmm. I can hook her up, put a little horseshoe,
she hurt
help
herself.
the swelling.
She hurt herself on the boat last summer. Oh my God. And I feel bad, but it's kind of funny now. She was getting in the boat and we heard it pop. And she was holding Harrison and she was like dropped him and everything. But the first thought in my mind was not, are you okay? It was, how am I going to take care of the kids if we have to have surgery on that thing? You know, like, cause seriously, that's a serious deal. Like having a surgery when you're trying to take care of 2 kids all day.
Oh,
like,
especially if it's your ankle, you can't walk around, and you got 2 young boys running around.
And I'm
your
at
house.
work all day, every day.
I've seen your videos, and they're like all over the place.
Yeah, they're crazy.
I mean, they're 2 boys. So
yeah.
My niece has twin boys,
Our
and
back door,
they're like opposite sides of the house, messing with stuff at all times. I'm like, well.
I walked out of the bedroom yesterday, and Harrison's holding a green marker, and I go, oh God. Like, thankfully he had just gotten a hold of it because the last time he did that, it was all over the wall. But man, these kids, we leave our back door open. We have a net, and it just stays open all day long.
Yeah.
That's probably why our air bill is so high.
Probably.
But it's like, you can't shut it because then it's open again. It's like, forget it. But yeah, so that concludes investing. So let's do the would you rather for Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
So would you rather make a really good living and spend all your money, basically work for your money, or would you try to sacrifice 10 years of your life from living a nice, that kind of lifestyle to then live that lifestyle towards the end?
Well, I'm going to choose the second option. That's what I'm doing now.
That's right.
So, because I started out with that first option, and then I honestly, Rich Dad Poor Dad probably changed my life because I started reading it, and then I was like, I just remember going home, sitting on the front porch with Brittany, and I'm like, did you know this about life? Have you ever thought about it this way?
Right.
And Brittany's like, no. And yeah.
I know, isn't that crazy?
It's like, it was just so eye-opening.
You could not lean on education to get you anywhere in life.
Well, there's always another perspective.
Well, what I meant was school education. Like, yes, it's going to teach you how to read and write. You have to learn those things. But like after that, like when you're done, like the rest of your life is for you to figure out.
Yep.
And to self-educate, read books and take risks. And you can't do that with what they teach you at university.
No.
And, I know there's people that are like, oh, no, education is the number one thing. And,
well,
good for you.
We need it for doctors, accountants, and like there's those people. Yes. Mm-hmm. So, but like for me, I did all those things. Like they said, go to school, get a good education. I did that. Then my education didn't pay well, and my corporate job was paying more money. So then they say, get you a job and work your way to the top. So I did that. Mm-hmm. I did exactly that. And then it's just a lot. And so just a perspective of life, and I wouldn't change it any other way.
Yeah.
Because now it's like I'm just building so much more other things and wealth and all that. So
yeah. Well, nice work.
We don't need Curtis.
We don't need you. Thanks for your input today, buddy. I appreciate it.
We didn't even let him talk
He's
today.
here in spirit. Yeah. Shh. All right. Well, that concludes our 4-part mini-series. And we just want to thank you guys for listening. And please like, subscribe, and comment below. And we would love to know what else you guys want to talk about. And we're going to sign off. I'm Casey Tudor, and this is Brooke Massey.